Hello, John. I understand that NelsonHall has just published its latest Global BPO Market forecast. How is the macroeconomic environment impacting the BPO market right now?
Macroeconomic environment's interesting because it's creating both strong drivers for BPO, probably stronger than ever, but also strong inhibitors. Essentially, the low growth or recessionary climate means that people are seriously looking at cost reduction, they're seriously looking at how they improve their processes and how they do things. But also, particularly in Europe, there's a lot greater level of uncertainty than there's been in the past. So that uncertainty is inhibiting people, they're not too sure of their planning horizons, and that's slowing down some of the BPO adoption.
So has that triggered a change in buyer behaviour?
Yes, it has. As the economic environment's become more uncertain, then clients have looked to get that certainty from elsewhere. So really looking for much more certainty of outcome from the vendors than before. So if a vendor promises, say, 35% cost reduction out of 18 months, then the client expects them to deliver that. They really don't want that to turn into 25% over 3 years. The other way of getting to certainty is in terms of adjusting the volumes. So clients don't know in the current economic environment what the volumes are going to be. They could go down, they could go up. They want to be able to adjust to that, so they're looking for much greater volume flexibility from their suppliers, matching the process costs to their business volumes, but with much greater degree of certainty than before.
Okay, and how do the different geographies compare?
Geographies are interesting at the moment. In terms of contract activity, Europe had a really great year in 2011, virtually a record high. Predictably enough, given the Eurozone, etc., and the uncertainty, it's starting to fall away from that, so the level of activity in Europe is falling. North America, particularly the US, was totally the reverse. 2011 was a poor year. They're starting to get a bit more economic certainty, and the volumes are starting to build. Also, I think we're starting to see, from a very low base, actually much more BPO activity starting to come into the emerging economies as organisations use that to be able to build business capability and enter new markets.
Okay, so how are the suppliers adapting to the increased maturity in the BPO market?
Well, when a buy-side client comes to us, they tend to always ask the same question. They say, can you find me somebody who's done these processes before with someone who looks exactly like us and it worked? So predictably enough, the vendors are reacting along those lines, and it really comes down to building domain-specific, usually industry-specific capability. So number of components to that. Firstly, the Indian vendors in particular, making sure they've got sales guys and sales consultancies who really know those industries onshore next to the clients. Also, a lot of the delivery organisation is now starting to be much more industry specific and less from horizontal teams. And then thirdly, there's acquiring IP capability, so typically platforms and IT assets that can be used to support the domain capability that are unique to that industry.
Thank you, John. Finally, what are the short-term growth opportunities?
Well, clearly there's lots of opportunities across the BPO space, but if I pick on just two as examples, then clearly healthcare is still the big opportunity for the current year, particularly in the US, both healthcare payer and healthcare provider, and also opportunities elsewhere. The other one, which is probably less obvious, is we're seeing a lot in the retailing space, particularly in support of online retailing. Traditionally, the retailers haven't done much when it was in support of store activity, but in terms of online retailing, lots of opportunities coming through in promotional support, in support for taking orders, in support for fulfillment, and even vendor management around that area.